All right, so we're going to visit with you guys about your tenure on the board of directors for the Northwest Minnesota Foundation. So you guys are unique in that you not only served 2 complete terms, but you got a bonus year because we did an extension to the terms in the times of emergency, which in this case was the pandemic. So 9 years you've been on the board. And so what I think we'll start with is just kind of go round robin and hear from you guys about what initially led to your interest in joining the board. What was your familiarity, if anything, with the foundation before you got on the board? And I think Kristin, since you're our current board chair, I think we'll start with you.
Sure. Well, I was passionate about the issues that the foundation dealt with. As far as my being familiar with the board and the foundation, we had gotten some business loans, and I was very aware of the foundation and its role with helping businesses and economic development. I participated in a few different leadership courses and then even leadership programs that were retreats. And I took like a grant writing class, I think, that the foundation offered. And then one of the staff members had come to the library and asked us about setting up a fund. And we chose not to do it, but so that was my exposure.
All right, Leah, we'll move up. You're next on my screen. So let's move to Leah.
Well, I remember when the foundation was initially established from McKnight, and I was really interested in it because as a nonprofit director, we pursued lots of grant funds, and McKnight was always kind of off limits to us because they were in the metro area and they served organizations in the metro area. So when the foundations were formed around the state, I thought, wow, how exciting this is that now rural Minnesota gets to be part of this great initiative. And I participated in a lot of the foundation programs. I was like a founding member. I can't even remember what it was called, of the Women's Fund, where they initially collected, I don't know, a couple $1,000s or something from each woman who wanted to be a founding member. And, participated in the leadership sessions. And of course, as a nonprofit organization, we worked with the foundation to access funds in areas that were consistent or common for both of us. The thing that really struck me about the foundation in our little 12-county area was that they had such a commitment to the issues that rural Minnesota faces. We, way back, gosh, I don't know how many years ago this had to be, we were concerned about the LaPorte area. My nonprofit covered LaPorte. We were concerned about early childhood education in LaPorte because there was literally nothing in that little community. High poverty, few resources. And I remember speaking with Marty thinking, it was so far-fetched that could we even access a grant to start up some early childhood programming? And we did. And from that time on, I just was so impressed with the commitment that the foundation had. This wonderful big foundation that was part of McKnight had to this tiny little community in northwestern Minnesota.
Cathy?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so my first crossing with the foundation was with ECI, with Lynn Backstrom, and when they were starting the ECI programs. And it sounded like it would be such a perfect fit for Fertile. And it was really a really interesting way that they went through a process. First, I applied, and I I worked with community ed and early ECFE at that time. So I applied, and I had to set up a whole group of community members, and they came in, and then Lynn came in, and we're giving our, case as why we thought we needed one, an ECI, and how it worked here. And she asked a few questions and this and that. She said, would you ever be willing to collaborate with another community? Sure, we're into collaboration. So that was, well, then the next thing I hear, like a month or so down the line, Kirkston got it, and we were out because they only had a limited number each time, like 2 or 3 each round. I was like, shoot. And I didn't hear anything from Lynn. I heard nothing. And then about several months later, well, I hear Foston is getting one. I thought that was incorrect, but that's what I had heard through the grapevine. And so, being a little obnoxious, and Lynn did point that out, I texted her and I said, or emailed, I suppose then, and said, say, I hear Foston's getting one. Is there any way we can still get in on this? And turns out Foston was not getting one, but she did have a spot. We got in, and she always reminded me of that I just didn't let her go. But it was a wonderful program, and it's worked wonderfully in our community. The other one is Eric Bergerson. He was just been a trooper for the foundation, and I know now he got kind of out of it. He was the board president for I think a couple of years, and he was so got the Veterans Memorial going. He got the money for that. He through Eric, we got an assisted living community, and of course the community fund as well. So yes, that's where I got involved.
So all of you had a familiarity with the foundation to some degree. So did anything surprise you when you joined the board? And if so, what surprised you? We'll go backwards. Cathy, let's start with you. What was surprising you once you joined the board?
No, I was amazed at the vastness of the foundation. I knew it was the whole area, but I didn't realize in how big it was, how the fingers went out and into big areas, small areas, and supporting our whole Northwest Minnesota. It just amazed me. It still does.
Yeah, I mean, we say when we onboard new employees, it can take up to 2 years to really learn all of what we do, and that's people who live this on a day-to-day basis. So I would imagine that even if you come into the board with some familiarity, there is a steep learning curve. Leah?
Well, I will agree with that. I mean, at my orientation session with Nancy, I was like, oh my God, I had no idea all of these different funds existed. And, I worked with federal and state programs a lot, and this was like just such an intertwined bunch of programming and funding. It was very confusing for the first year or two. But the other thing that really surprised me was the level of commitment that from the president down, the quality of place initiatives, and they actually went around to communities throughout the region and had meetings with anybody who was welcome to attend. Certainly they invited people, but they wanted to know, what is it about this region that's really important to you? In working to develop their strategic plan, they wanted to get input from everyone. And that did surprise me, because I thought that was very impressive for this, important foundation that was part of McKnight. They truly cared, like I said, from the president down. And it was just very gratifying to know that they had that level of commitment, that passion about how people feel throughout our area.
Kristin, what surprised you when you joined the board?
Well, I would also say like the impact in the region and just the breadth of the issues and the programs. It's a lot. And also the board packets each month, the size of the board packet. I had never been on a board that had a board packet like that. Which shows, you know, how many issues and how
Well,
much.
we're certainly giving you all the information you need and to be fully informed.
But then also just the support and the friendliness amongst the board members and with the staff. Yeah, that was a really nice surprise.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you join the board, you learn all this in the first couple years, 3 years, 4 years, and you kind of get to the point where you find your feet, and then everything kind of shifted again, right? You went through so much change in these 9 years. I can't remember if we moved right after you started or if it was right before, but we had the new location, a whole new strategic plan in 2018, and then 2.5+ years, you started going through a new presidential search and hired a new president just over 2 years ago. So it's been a lot of change. Are there certain things that stick out to you as like, oh, that was such a process? Leah, let's start with you.
You know, I'm very proud of the building that we're in now. I was on the board when the planning started, and you know, not everyone was fully supportive of renovating this dumpy rundown building in downtown Bemidji. But Nancy could see the beauty and the possibilities and really understand what this would do for downtown Bemidji. And I was really proud of that. It turned out beautifully, and I know there were issues along the way, but you know, it worked. I was very proud of that. The board or the foundation has really become more organized, more sophisticated, more formalized their processes, especially since Karen has started. I really like the idea of having policies and procedures, having them formalized and having the revisions noted and then the time to review them again. You know, not that that wasn't done before, but it is now done in a very formalized way. I'm very proud of that. The board packets have become so much more sophisticated and easier for board members to follow. I'm proud of the staff that the foundation has. My goodness, the staff. They are just, you know, young, intelligent people. This is an organization that really walks the talk, and I'm very proud of that. Very proud of the grassroots work that's done in communities, the voter and election education that was done this last year. I'm so proud of that because we need that in our region, and there's not a lot of other organizations that do things like that.
So Kristin, when you look back on these 9 years and some of the big things that you've accomplished and had to walk through from the board perspective, is there one or two things that really jumps out at you in terms of that was quite the process and you were pleased with where it came out?
You know, the new president, I chaired the search committee. And so all the work that we went into to make sure that we picked the right person. And then it's gone so well. Yeah, that's been, I'm really, really pleased with that. And to see how the foundation continues to grow with Karen as the president. You know, and the staffing too, the staff who we have, and we're just in a good spot. You know, I feel really good about that. I also feel good about the nimbleness of the organization. Back 9 years ago, I would say we were very formal and inflexible. There wasn't a lot of like, this is the way we do things, and that's the way we will do things. It wasn't flexible, like, oh, let's meet on another day. I mean, even things like that weren't even considered. And given the way the world goes, there's so many things that come up that we have to deal with. And we've just been able to turn on a dime and deal with those things. And so I'm really proud about that. And then, you know, also, how I was able to see the grants that were available or whatnot and bring them to my community. You know, we had this need, and I was, because I knew of what the foundation was doing, we were able to apply for them. You know, we weren't sure about how to go forward on some issues. And so Nancy came to the community and attended some community meetings and said, you know, helped us figure out, okay, what do we want to do going forward? And then foundation staff came in and helped us on so many things. I mean, it's so impressive. It's really fun to see. And I mean, I'm living the impact here. You know, I get all the benefits, so.
Oh, that's great. Cathy, has anything different jumped out to you as you've kind of sat and listened to Leah and Kristin look back?
I was proud of the strategic framework and that it's actually being used. You know, we were sitting there in a room up in Thief River, and it was, can't remember if it was stormy or something that night, wasn't it? Anyway, and for 2 days in this room or so, and it's like, wow, we really came up with the direction that the foundation is going to go for what, the next 7 years or so, besides the tweaking along the way here right now. But when you look back at that and you think, wow, we were actually decided what the foundation is going to look like for the next amount of time. And looking back, it's kind of scary, but it seemed to work. It was, you know, it works. The staff is so good at listening to us. And I think the board has been pretty good at listening to the staff and picking up what the staff it can do, and working on pushing that forward. So anyway, that's one thing that really stood out to me.
We've covered a whole gamut of things. I know we've talked a lot about some programs, we've talked about strategic plan, we've talked about presidents and buildings and all sorts of impacts. I want to talk a little bit about philanthropy specifically as a community foundation, and just kind of get some thoughts in terms of in your own communities, what you've seen from the board, like what has been the impact of local philanthropy that you've actually seen realized. And Cathy, I'm going to go backwards again. So I'm going to start with you. So impact of philanthropy, what have you seen?
Okay, I have seen people grow in their realization of that they can make a difference. It doesn't really matter if they give $10, $1,000, whatever. It all helps. And specifically, I can see that in one of our sub funds, the Friends of the Fair, when they built a huge new barn out at the fairgrounds, and then they got their own little fund. And people are happy to be able to find a place that they can give money to, and they know it's going to go to something in our community that will work. And to remember somebody, a memorial, that's what's really been big. Our ECI has also been very fortunate when we have our fund drives to raise money to put in a splash pad or build a nature park. People are more generous than I could ever believe. And it's just been so rewarding to see that. Our community fund, that has just blossomed. That has just been so helpful in our community, and people give back to that all the time. So those are some of the things that I see specifically right now.
Leah, what thoughts do you have? What have you seen from a philanthropic impacts?
Well, certainly the community funds across the region, yes, they've grown, but in Hubbard County, not just smaller organizations, but individuals, you know, support philanthropy for for our county, certainly, and the region. And I've seen so many good things come out of it. The foundation has been so visionary and creative in how community funds, at least it seems how they're set up. I know there's a rule how they're set up. I know there's probably, you know, very specific items that have to be covered, but it seems like if it makes sense for the community or for that individual, then, you know, they can do what they need to do with that fund. The foundation has also been kind of a risk taker, at least in Hubbard County. I know there's one organization that over the years I felt they looked at the foundation as kind of like a ATM machine, you know, where they could go and get funding. And it used to make me a little bit angry, but you know what? I probably think back on it, and I was probably more conservative than I should have been, because what's actually played out is the Armory Square was renovated and the city purchased it. So now it's owned by the city of Park Rapids, and it's used for theater, arts, community events. And without that commitment from the foundation, that never would have happened for our community.
Kristin, what have you seen locally or in your immediate backyards in terms of the philanthropic impacts?
You know, our community fund is fairly new. I mean, I feel like it's a younger one, but we've had a lot of participation, and we had a large donor come through and donate money with a match situation. And we've, you know, some of the projects include painting the library book drop, or putting a new roof on the gazebo downtown, helping at the hockey rink, or with some practice area for golf. Let's see, fire safety equipment, the pool. The pool's been a big thing. We're trying to raise money for a new pool. We haven't done that, but we're fixing the baby pool and adjusting the pool so it continues to be able to work, which is really important for our community. That's been a priority. And then, you know, just downtown projects and the literacy council. So it really, you know, all the projects I feel like run the gamut. It's just so many things. So
I mean, you have just a few meetings left before the transition, stepping down, moving into your post board of directors volunteerism life. What do you think, has the experience changed you or impacted you, or what do you take with you as you step down from that role? Let's start with, I don't know where I left off. Let's start with Leah.
You know, and I don't want to get political, but sometimes I feel a little cynical about what happens in our communities and our nation, our state. I will have to tell you, every single board meeting, I leave with a renewed faith and excitement about what is possible in our region. And getting to know the outstanding staff and the commitment they have, from Karen all the way through the organization, I have a renewed faith that we're going to be okay. Things will be fine. We'll take care of our neighbors. We'll reach out to our friends. We want to make our communities better. And I believe the foundation just has a real grasp on the importance of that. So I feel happier. I feel more faithful about what can be in the future.
Thanks, Leah. Kristin?
You know, I would say connections with the board and with the staff in the region. I feel much more connected with the I don't know how to describe it, but with all the people involved.
Mm-hmm.
And a knowledge of what's going on in the region. What are the issues? What are the needs? What are the success stories? And, you know, a knowledge of the resources going forward, you know, what's out there. So yeah, very, very positive. You know, all the things I'm taking away are good. And I'm so thankful for the opportunity, for what I've learned and what I've gained from it.
Thank you. Cathy?
Well, I'll have to ditto all of that, the above. Well, I have learned much more than I've ever given to the foundation, more about the whole area, more about all the things and the people in the area have just enlightened my little world. And I really am very thankful for that opportunity as well.
Well, I can speak on behalf of the staff and say that while we appreciate all of that, we really just have appreciated your guys' energies and times and expertise. And, you know, it's a volunteer position and it comes with so much more than just a few meetings. You know, Kristin knows better than anybody, I'm sure, the amount of just drive time it takes to get from one side of the region to the other. And so we just, you know, you guys have been impactful, wonderful board members, and we're definitely going to miss all of your contributions, but we've just appreciated them so much.